Welcome, Age of Vintage Society. In the 1950s, the movie-going world fell in love with a young French ballerina and actress named Leslie Caron. She brightened the silver screen in musical films like 1958's Gigi, where she played a young courtesan in training who befriends a rich, handsome suitor in 1900s Paris. How Leslie Caron amazed both Gene Kelly and Fred Astaire. Make sure to watch the video until the end and leave your thoughts in the comments. If you are new here, join our wonderful community by subscribing to the Age of Vintage channel. From Technicolor Hollywood musicals to the kitchen sink and beyond, screen legend Leslie Caron's career is well into its 7th decade and shows no signs of slowing. The musical genre is one that is incredibly multifaceted in terms of how it tells a story. Though there are scripts and lyrics that can further the plot along, musicals also tell stories where words fall short. Musicals employ a wide range of expression, and one of these is dance. The musical genre has showcased the dancing abilities with many a star, with one of them being Leslie Caron. French actress and dancer Leslie Caron is best known for her roles in An American in Paris and Gigi. When Caron played Gigi, she was a big star. She was summoned by dancer Gene Kelly, who had seen her in a ballet in Paris and cast her in his 1951 MGM musical extravaganza. If these films are way before your time, it's really worth renting them for the sheer joy of it. Kelly had a nickname for his 18-year-old French co-star. Gene called me Lester the Pester, Caron said. I think he was very fond of me, but he liked the rhyme, and he was not sentimental, and he always teased me, and so I was Lester the Pester, or just plain Lester. Leslie's gamine looks and pixie-like appeal would be ideal for Cinderella-type rags-to-riches stories, and Hollywood made fine use of it. Combined with her fluid dancing skills, she became one of the top foreign musical artists of the 1950s, while her triple-threat talents as a singer, dancer and actress sustained her long after musical films' golden age had passed. Leslie Caron's story begins in the present and unfolds as a journey that takes us back to a glorious time in Hollywood, a story seen through the prism of a living legend who reveals stories of a life lived large and with passion, leading men and lovers, 3 husbands, inspiring directors and celebrity friends, the insider life of the studio star system, triumphs on screen and stage, depression and recovery. There's a lot to tell. Leslie Claire Margaret Caron was born in the suburbs of Paris, France, in Boulogne-Billancourt, Seine, now Haute-de-Seine, France. Her father Claude was a French chemist, pharmacist, perfumer and boutique owner, while her American-born mother, Margaret Pettit, was a ballet dancer. Though her older brother became a chemist, Caron was encouraged by her mother to pursue a career in performance. As a result, she began taking dancing lessons at age 11. Her family soon relocated to Paris, where Caron attended the convent of the Assumption and started her ballet training. She describes her childhood as idyllic, divided between a townhouse in the chic Paris suburb of Neuilly-sur-Seine, with butler, chef, governess, chauffeur and maids, and a country estate in the Pyrenees. I went to school in a chauffeur-driven limousine, but when all was lost in the war, my adventures really began. Caron studied at the National Conservatory of Dance, where she appeared in The Pearl Diver at age 14, a show for children in which she danced and played a little boy. By age 16, she was hired by Roland Pettit to join the Ballet des Champs-Élysées, where she was immediately given solo parts. While performing for the Ballet des Champs-Élysées, she was seen by then-married Hollywood couple Gene Kelly and Betsy Blair. Leslie did not meet the famed pair at the end of the show that night, as the 17-year-old went home dutifully right after her performance, but 1 year later Kelly remembered Leslie's performance when he returned to Paris in search for a partner for his upcoming movie musical, due to initial co-star Sid Charise's pregnancy. Caron secured the role, making her film debut alongside Kelly. The rest is history. The war was over, the world was coming back to life, and Hollywood was enchanted by a new ideal, the otherworldly sylph as embodied by Caron and Audrey Hepburn. Cultured pearls in a town of rhinestones, both women had trained as classical dancers, but where Hepburn read as European, Caron, despite her American mother, is as quintessentially French as a great perfume. Hollywood was a revelation to the young ballerina who arrived in the US malnourished and anemic after spending World War II in occupied Paris. In California there was sunshine all the time, soap, alarm clocks and even shoes for sale in drugstores, and so much food. "Too much," Caron said. "I thought I'd never seen plates so full of food. It was awful. I couldn't finish a plate ever." Caron also marvelled at how nice everybody was. During the war, people had become very bitter and very suspicious of each other, men beating up women and beating up children, and that was quite a normal sight, she recalled. And this is the sort of thing that despair and fear and poverty brings to people. It breaks down civilization, breaks down the manners of people and their ways of behaviour. Arriving in Hollywood, where you could take a shower at 10 o'clock if you wanted, was something magnificent, but it took some getting used to, she said. Caron moved to Hollywood without knowing English nor with a single acquaintance, but was quickly taken with America's abundance and wealth. Americans fell for her too, when she debuted in An American in Paris in 1951. She made her screen debut opposite Gene Kelly in the Best Picture winning musical. Starring as Lise Bouvier, an enchanting and culturally enlightened young Frenchwoman, Caron danced her way into Kelly's Jerry Mulligan's heart, and the audience to boot. Featuring the music of George Gershwin, the film memorably concludes with a remarkable 17-minute ballet, still considered one of the triumphs of its genre. Even though Caron had no acting experience, after a screen test she got the job, and with 3 days' notice she moved to Hollywood with her mother. Interestingly, she never sings in the movie, but Minnelli crafted her scenes so well that no one seemed to notice that all the singing is done by men. Both Kelly and Caron offered elegant and enthusiastic performances, which captivated audiences. The film won 6 Academy Awards, including Best Picture. The film was only the second colour film to win Best Picture at the Oscars, 12 years after the first, Gone with the Wind. Caron signed a 7-year contract with MGM. During her time with MGM, her skills would be displayed in both musical and non-musical roles. Civilization reappeared for Caron on the sound stages of 1950s Hollywood. Fred Astaire, her partner in 1955's Daddy Longlegs, was the epitome of elegance, and what a dancer. Caron says he was the most skillful person you could imagine. It took another plush musical classic, Gigi, to remind audiences once again of Leslie's unique international appeal. Audrey Hepburn, who had played the title part on Broadway, was keen on doing the film, but producer Arthur Freed wrote the part expressly for Leslie. It was also Freed who called up Fred Astaire to suggest her as his leading lady in Gigi. While appearing in the London production of the musical stage play in 1956, Leslie Caron fell in love with the play's British director Peter Hall. Leslie Caron and Peter Hall were married in August 1956. At age 25, Leslie Caron was getting ready to play a 14-year-old in MGM's 1958 Technicolor film Gigi. Never mind, she had already given birth to her first child. We started doing the costumes, and by then I was still feeding my baby. I had this voluptuous look, which didn't fit a little girl of 14, she added. For the musical number, Caron was required to wear a wide straw hat, a plaid skirt and a jacket to highlight a more childlike figure. Caron, who wanted to hide her curves, worked with head seamstress Madame Karinsky to add decorative braids to the front of the jacket, distracting the audience. However, the trick didn't fool designer Cecil Beaton, who originally sketched the costume. "I don't remember designing those," Caron recalled Beaton saying. "I was too mature looking." When Caron played Gigi, she was a big star. It became one of Hollywood's most successful musicals, winning 9 Oscars. Caron was now 27, but could still pass as a schoolgirl. Gigi was a turning point, she explained. Coming out of the war and the deprivation, I felt, things are good now. I was married to Peter Hall, I had my first child, and I was extremely happy. Leslie Caron and Peter Hall's son Christopher Hall was born in March 1957 in London, and daughter Jennifer Hall came the following year in 1958. Although new husband Peter Hall resented her going off to do movies and would have preferred her to stay at home, Caron continued to pursue her acting career. It was an exciting life, travelling the length of Britain searching out new talent, but again there was a problem. There was no room for me. He didn't want me to act with him or to work with somebody else. He wanted me in the kitchen preparing sandwiches for him. I just couldn't accept the situation Peter insisted on. Did she tell him? Of course, I said, look at the Oliviers, there's room for both. But I wasn't Vivian Leigh. She had a very strong will. She had an affair with Warren Beatty. When she and Hall divorced in 1965, Beatty was named as a co-respondent and was ordered by the London court to pay the costs of the case. Everything with Warren Beatty was too dramatic. I didn't think I could keep up the pace. I don't think my younger self would approve of my relationships. Having been raised by the nuns, I thought just one marriage was what was right. I still consider my real marriage to be with Peter Hall, the father of my children. I still reproach myself for not having the guts to insist on working things out. The problem between us was that Peter wanted me not to work, but I loved work. Without it, I would suffocate. She met Beatty at a party in 1963 which rocked her marriage to Hall. He was 5.5 years younger than me, irresistibly handsome and intelligent, she noted. Flirtatious banter flew back and forth. After dinner he offered to take me back to the Beverly Hills Hotel and swept me off my feet. I never arrived at my hotel room. Indeed, I lingered another week and had what they call a good time. Back home in Stratford, I told Peter about Warren and said I wanted a separation. He tried to salvage our marriage with a trip to Marrakesh. Disastrous. Caron is one of only 6 women who danced with Kelly and Fred Astaire in movies. She said that while Kelly always danced close to the ground, with Astaire she felt as if she was floating. Who did she prefer? It's not fair to ask me that. For 70 years I've refused to answer that. A great dancer is a great dancer. She says they were such different men, Kelly tough and generous, Astaire urbane and genteel. Was she happy in Hollywood? No, I was very young and very lonely. I couldn't find many people who had the same experience. People would say, oh yes, we had a harsh time in the war. We could only get 1 chocolate bar a week. You can't explain to people what it was like living with the enemy, machine guns and smell, the constant fear. She didn't have much time for the men who ran the studios. Like so many stars, she was signed on a 7-year contract as an unknown and ended up earning a pittance at her peak. She couldn't stand the way female actors were treated. Women were kept in their infancy. In England, actresses are allowed to age. In Hollywood, absolutely not. Caron wanted to do more serious acting, so she studied the Stanislavski method, learning about psychological realism, and found it thrilling. In the 1960s and thereafter, she worked in European films as well. Her film assignments during this period included Father Goose with Cary Grant and Valentino, in which she appeared in the role of silent screen star Alla Nazimova. She was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Actress for her starring role in Lily. Caron won the BAFTA Award for Best British Actress and an Oscar nomination for her performance in the British drama The L-Shaped Room. Caron has continued to act long after her time at MGM and continues to appear in films and television shows. She also attends film festivals and retrospective concerts regularly. She currently alternates her residencies among Paris, London and New York City. In 1969, Caron married Michael Laughlin, the producer of the film 2 Lane Blacktop. They divorced in 1980. By the 90s, disillusioned with the lack of substantial parts, she started restoring a ruin in Burgundy and transforming it into a hotel and restaurant. During the week she put her heart into the auberge, then at the weekends she was lost. Work dried up and she slumped into a deep depression. As her mother had, she began to drink. Occasionally she went to work abroad, but returned feeling even bleaker. Caron realised she was different from her mother. She wanted to live. Soon after her breakdown, she was offered a part in the comedy Funny Bones, as the mother of a brilliant autistic vaudevillian played by Lee Evans. Ironic to be playing the only sane character when I had just been released from the psychiatric ward. Today she's still keeping busy, appearing in the TV series The Durrells in Corfu. TCM also noted she has dedicated her time to writing and restoring old buildings in France and turning them into inns. Still, she insisted her greatest joy has been her family. Running the auberge proved too tough. By her 80s, she had had enough and decided it was time to return to England. It felt like home. She settled in London with Jack, whom she had rescued from the animal charity the RSPCA. She grew her garden, caught up with old friends, made new ones, hung out with her grandchildren, and discovered life could be good. She even got herself some regular acting shifts in the TV series The Durrells. If you liked this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you are new here, and if you want to support my work, please visit my Patreon page. Now it is your turn. What do you think about the life and legacy of Leslie Caron? Leslie Caron danced her way into millions of hearts.